Gone are the days where plant-based diets are deemed to be, you know, bland and just boring and tasteless. Oh no, honey, we love flavor in plant-based diets. Today on Food is Medicine, we're gonna stock up on a whole bunch of goodies. And if you are new around here, hi, my name is Natasha, aka Dr. Bay, and you have officially tuned into Naturally Dr. Tasha with me. So after I started my segment, Food is Medicine, I've been getting a lot of DMs about people asking me questions like, hey Dr. Tash, you know, I've been looking into starting a plant-based diet, but the truth is I really don't know where to start or what to do. Or people just making comments like, yo, won't you get hungry on a plant-based diet? This is why I made the segment in the channel to show you that eating a plant-based diet, it has nothing to do with starvation. In actual fact, there is so much variety of foods that one can incorporate into your diet if you want to start living plant-based. So in this segment, I'm going to share with you the top essentials that you need to have in your pantry if you want to be starting a plant-based diet. Because the last thing you want to do is start off without nothing to look forward to. So let's go. First thing on the list are nuts and seeds. Oh my gosh, I really go nuts for this type of stuff, you guys. The fact that there's so much variety to choose from, for example, almonds, cashews, pecans, walnuts, there's a whole lot. Chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, flax seeds, like you name it, okay? Nuts and seeds are packed with nutrients and fiber. Not only that, nuts and seeds are one of the wholesome foods that have really good fats. Along with things like avocados and olives, nuts and seeds are a really big winner when it actually comes to stuff that you should be having in your pantry when starting a plant-based diet. What is a pantry without some kind of nut and seed butter? So if you're going to be buying your nut and seed butter from the grocery store, for example, your peanut butter or your almond butter, make sure you get the ones that say 100% peanut butter, okay? Because the reality is that most of these that are on the market right now actually have added sugars and they have added oil in them, and you do not want that. Nut and seed butter is so easy to make. I usually make my own and store it in the freezer, and it is perfect for that day where I feel like grabbing a piece of toast or like just putting it in my oats. And the reality is that it is so easy to make. So if you are interested in learning on how I make my nut butter, then you should click on the subscribe button, click on the notification bell so that you can get the notifications of when I'm uploading and you won't miss a thing. Next item on my list, of course, that you should have in your pantry are whole grains. Guys, going on a plant-based diet does not mean that you should just be having fruits and vegetables. Of course, we need good carbs in our diet. Whole grains are a good way to go about it.
Things like couscous, quinoa, things like oats, things like wild rice and brown rice, things like whole wheat pastas and spaghettis.
If you're into your spaghettis and your macaronis, make sure that you substitute the white ones for the whole grain ones. They are usually darker in color. The white ones, you guys, are usually stripped off of their nutrients and you're basically just eating empty carbs. So if you're going to be stocking up on grains, make sure to get the wholesome grains. What is a plant-based diet without beans? You guys, I was not a fan of beans. I was not a fan of beans, I won't lie. Actually, it's not that I wasn't really a fan of beans, but I didn't know that there was such a variety of beans that one could actually choose from. I'm talking to you guys that are at home who are South African. You guys know what I'm saying, because you guys know that when you think of beans, you think of the nawata soap, right? Those brown ones, the ones that are put in like soup or stamp or something, and those are the kind of beans that, you know, I basically grew up with. But then again, when I came to China and I was really interested like in this plant-based lifestyle, my eyes got open to the variety of beans that there are out there, and like how I've actually been limiting myself to just one specific thing. So I tried out garbanzo beans, which are also known as chickpeas. I tried out black beans, which are great, you guys, for making vegan burgers. I tried out all sorts of beans, and we know that beans are a good source of protein and fiber, and they are just really filling. So there's really no starving in a plant-based diet. Great tip about beans is that they actually take a long time to cook. So a good tip would be to soak them overnight before you actually want to cook them, and this will cut down the cooking time by at least half. It's much quicker that way. And of course, you guys, this one is very obvious. Fruits and vegetables. What are you doing on a plant-based diet if you don't eat fruits and vegetables? And of course, we know that there's so many fruits and vegetables that one can choose from. But another tip, especially about the vegetable, get yourself the really green leafy vegetables. Those are the ones that are packed with nutrients, okay? Things like your broccoli, things like your cucumber, things like cabbage, things like spinach, and the list goes on and on and on and on. There are so many plant-based options that you can try out. And of course, if you haven't seen my video on how I actually make my own plant-based milk in under 2 minutes, then you should definitely check this out. I generally have coconut milk in my fridge, and of course then I make my almond, I make my cashew, I make my oat milk. Like, so it's about trying, and it's about trial and error, and the one that you like, that will be your go-to for the rest of the journey.
For all time's sake.
Herbs and spices, you guys, you have to have flavor in a plant-based diet, otherwise it's pointless. I mean, gone are the days where plant-based diets are deemed to be, you know, bland and just boring and tasteless. Oh no, honey, we love flavor in plant-based diets, and that's why you should have herbs and spices. Now remember, when stocking up on herbs and spices, you should generally get them from an authentic store. So maybe like an Indian store or maybe a Chinese store. That's where you can actually get the real organic authentic spices that will actually be worth your money. And another tip when getting spices in general, you should get the ones that say ground powder, right? Like ground onion, like ground ginger, okay, ground turmeric, because those are the ones that are in their purest form, okay, and there's no additives or any salt or any there's nothing extra added to them. So always get the ones that say ground something.
It's been a long time. Some of the old songs. For all time's sake.
So other essentials that we need to think about are things like sugar. Listen, you guys, if you are still eating white sugar out there, you are doing yourself a great disservice. Now we know that sugar is actually an addictive drug, and of course sugar is just empty calories that affects the body's biological pathway that actually regulates our hunger. So have you been actually wondering why you most often feel hungry? Well, maybe it is the sugar that you're eating. We should opt for more natural sources of sugar that are found in fruits. You know, things like banana have natural sugar. But if you really have to have sugars in your house, then you can look into substituting your white sugars for things such as brown sugar, okay? Brown sugar is naturally dark in color. So if it's not dark in color, then it is not brown sugar. You can look into things like honey. You can look into things like maple syrup. I usually have maple syrup in my fridge. And of course, I will have some brown sugar for baking purposes. And of course, there's also something called stevia, which is a great substitute for sugar, especially for those people that have some sort of health-related disease like diabetes. It is a 0-calorie food. Okay, so you can look into stevia and just other options of sugar, but get rid of the white sugar. It is not good for you. We cannot live without salt, okay? Salt is essential in the fact that we use it to enhance our food dishes, and it just generally makes food taste good. But the question is, what type of salt are you eating? Because if it's table salt, you should throw it away. Table salt is a highly refined salt. We know that it is one of the cheaper versions of salt that is found today, but the truth about table salt is that it is highly refined. It is refined, meaning that the trace minerals have been removed from it, okay? It only contains sodium. Sodium, as we know, is a great factor, especially when it comes to hypertension. The key is to go for other types of salt. Things like sea salt, okay? Things like pink Himalayan salt, okay? And you'll normally see that these types of salts are in their coarse form, right? Meaning that they are less refined. They are harvested from nature. The good things about these types of salt is that they will still contain the trace minerals. Things like potassium, things like chloride will still be found within these types of salts, and therefore will not raise your blood pressure like table salt would, because there is a balance in minerals. There's a balance in sodium, and of course sodium is balanced by potassium. There's just a general balance, okay, in minerals. That is why it is important to make the switch.
So this is the salt that I use. This is pink Himalayan salt, and as you can see, it is highly granulated, not refined, and it is in its purest form. If you want to use it, you simply just have to use a salt and pepper shaker.
So of course, if you are starting a plant-based diet and you have been a regular meat eater, it's going to be difficult for you to go from meat eating to non-meat eating. So of course you gotta have some type of mock meat, or some sort of meat substitutes that are sold all over grocery stores. I know particularly you can find some at Woolworths. They have vegetarian or vegan options for meat substitutes. So things like mock ground beef, things like mock chicken, things like mock burgers. Like there's a whole lot. Good thing about these mock products is that they are actually made, okay, from plant-based ingredients. So you can definitely look into that if you are someone who is a beginner and still transitioning, into this plant-based diet. So you guys, I really hope that you enjoyed the segment and that you've learned a little bit more about healthy options and what not to incorporate into your plant-based journey. So you guys, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe on my channel. I really look forward to hearing from all of you. And remember that eating well is a form of self-respect. So respect yourself.